Who's ready for history? This is the first time that DJ Kevin Sir has moderated a panel.
Yeah, no
Let's
pressure.
get it, Kevin.
Woo, woo, woo. Hey. Hello, everybody. Aloha mai kakao. Welcome, everybody. I know most everyone in the room. My name is Kevin Sir. I produce music festivals like Timber Outdoor Music Festival, created a thing called Dobe Fest back in the day. I run an organization called Artist Home that advocates for artists, offers free consultations to anyone who seeks it. And I am also a DJ at KXP somehow. I produce a show called Sounds of Survivance along with my friend Tori J. And it is a show focused on indigenous colonized people from around the world. Go check it out. It's been amazing. And I am very excited to be here with 4 people who have a shared love and passion for our music communities and how they work as an ecosystem. Why don't we just start with you, Eric? Go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll work our way down.
Hello, I'm Eric Gilbert. I'm based in Boise, Idaho. And yeah, Boise, what's up? Helped found Treefort Music Fest there. It was a multi-day, multi-venue festival. Thank you. Cool, so you've been to Boise, it sounds like. Yeah. And we have our kind of parent company is called Duck Club, and we promote shows throughout the year. We have a small booking agency too. I've done a lot of artist advocacy and stuff, and stumbled into this policy world several years ago thanks to this group of folks, and pleasure to be here.
Give it up.
Listen, it's bright. Hi, my name's Jody Eklund. I am the owner-operator of the Clock Out Lounge here on Beacon Hill. Been booking and promoting bands for several years throughout the greater Seattle area. At one point, I also had a music festival, the Mowave Queer Music Festival. Yeah. So I've dipped my feet in a little bit of everything. So I guess that's why they invited me here.
Can we turn the lights down here a little bit? Through the LD. We're getting blasted.
My name is Nathaniel Morrow. I am the executive director of NITO, the National Independent Talent Organization. We are a 501c6 trade organization composed of independent talent agencies and management companies. Collectively, we represent about 5,000 touring artists across the country. I'm based in Brooklyn. Very excited to be out here in Seattle. It's been a lovely weather that I'm told is like this year-round.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I am Lisa Gautis. I work with the City and County of Denver at Denver Arts and Venues. You may know one of our small venues called Red Rocks. I've had the luxury of doing economic development strategies for the creative sector, including our music sector, and getting money into the hands of our community through places like Red Rocks. I also work with the National Independent Venues Association, who passed a cool $16 billion to help save our stages way back then, and continue in some ticketing policy right now, and have a music venue myself with my partner, and also work on an initiative called Take Note Colorado, trying to get more equitable access into the hand of music, education, and instruments into the hands of youth across Colorado.
Thank you all for being here. We had a little chat downstairs. I know, Jody, I was trying to call you to come join us, but I think the main thing that we're here to talk about is sort of like, we have a street here in Seattle, Ballard Avenue, has 3 incredible venues on it at 3 different sizes. You got Connor Byrne, which I believe is 125 cap, Brady, is that right? Yeah. 150. And then we have the Sunset that's like upper 200s, and then we have the Tractor that's 400. And I always looked at that street as this really wonderful example of a music ecosystem and a music economy. And I always see it as the balance. I'm a festival promoter, and so like when a band sells out the 150-person venue, they immediately go to the next venue, and that small venue has to find ways to backfill and find new talent. And I am above that as a music festival. I'm a festival that depends on this ladder of venues that artists build themselves through in order to basically play the larger stages. And the smaller the stages, the more delicate they are, but also, to me, the more important they are when it comes to being the foundation of that system that build artists need to build their way through. And so what this talk is really about is kind of the balance between festivals and venues, how they are in different places right now, and how these venues, starting at the smallest ones, are the incubators for the talent that end up playing these larger festivals, these larger events, and what happens when these larger festivals and events kind of take up so much of the air that they end up kind of hurting the venues that cultivated the talent that played their stages, and thus, long-term, shooting themselves in the foot. And so we're kind of here, we have people from different regions to kind of talk about the state of where you're from a little bit, but also talk about that balance and how do we achieve it, how do the stakeholders, how are they made aware, and how can we inform ourselves, each other, to make sure that this pathway for artists, which is why we do this, the musicians, continues to exist. So I don't know if anyone wants to take it off and maybe just give a state of how you feel that balance is in your region, where you're from.
I can start, I guess. I think Boise is an interesting case study. You know, I think I think every market's different. I think, you know, the way we look at the work we're doing between, you know, we run a couple of venues now. We actually took over this old Shriners Hall, which not dissimilar to an old building like this, but, you know, it has a 300 cap in the basement. It has a 700 cap upstairs, and then we have a 1,000 cap that we built with a developer now, and that's all new to us in the last couple of years. And for us, like, the festival, the way it functions in that community is really a scene development exercise, and it's actually like a proof of concept of what a thriving music scene looks like for 5 days, right? And then we really think of that work as like, okay, now how do we translate that into a successful music scene the other 360 days out of the year? That's been the hard work, right? Like, but in a policy sense, it's really been helpful to have the festivals as such an amplifier of what a really vibrant music scene can look like, and then you have this very obvious example of not only the economic impact, but everything from really small bands that some bands play their first show at the festival, to, like, you know, notable headliners, not the arena acts and stuff. And so you get this full strata of the music scene that is possible in Boise, but isn't there yet, right? And so we just finished our 13th year, so it's been cool to see the progress that's happened since. And one of the biggest things we identified after the first couple of years of the festival is we would activate a bunch of spaces that expanded the all-ages music spaces, as particularly small cap, all-ages music spaces in our town temporarily. So all these kids would get excited about the future that was ahead for them, and then the festival would contract, and there would be very little opportunity for them. So Nathan, who's here with me today, we worked really hard with the city and others to advocate for all-ages spaces, all-ages shows, and it didn't really manifest the way we thought it was going to, but I'm happy to report that there's actually more small cap all ages spaces in Boise now than there are 21 plus places that are booking touring acts, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah, exactly. And that's such an important part of the fabric of a music scene. To your point, I used to always say, like, artists need a place to suck. You need a small room to suck before you can do anything else, and especially if house shows are under threat and stuff. So that's kind of the work we've been doing, and we'll get into more details. But for me, there's a symbiotic relationship between festivals and the year-round work of the venues. Both how we service artists. A lot of artists that maybe haven't thought of Boise as a stop, the festival is their entry point to giving Boise a chance, and then they're like, oh, this is a cool place. Let's come back. And then we help them come back. So.
Beautiful. Can I follow up, though? Like, all ages is difficult in a lot of places because so much of our music ecosystem is depending on alcohol sales. Like, every venue here, it's just like, yeah, I don't make anything off the show, the tickets. It's just like, if we can do so much in the bar, that's when I might make a little money. Is there anything unique to what's happening in Boise that we can learn, or other scenes that are very bar-driven dependent can learn from what's happening there?
That's so true, and it's a challenging thing. One of the hard things is, like, we do have the luxury of having some all ages spaces that have full bars, and we can co mingle, which is hard. It's also it's very costly to run those shows because there's a lot more security concerns and there's a lot of things, and the market doesn't necessarily incentivize you to run a show like that, right? And so I think it's a big conversation about and we talk to different partners within the community, because if you don't allow youth to enter the music scene until they're 21, by then they maybe miss the opportunity to care about the things that Michael talked about earlier, right? And I also think it's super important because going to a big, as much as I love Lucy Dacus, going to a 6,000 cap show is great, but for a young person, that's a passive experience, where when you're in a 100 cap, when you can meet the artist or help run sound, help do the booking at the Veer. So I think that because for the longest time in Boise, the only all ages opportunities were at these large cap spaces, and that doesn't do the kind of work that we need for youth in town. So it is challenging. It's possible we have a unique opportunity there, but we're also combating misunderstanding. And somebody spoke to it earlier, that it's not that we're trying to get kids to drink. It's just that drinking is the beverage sales are the only way we have to subsidize those types of spaces. And so we have to figure out ways for that to work or come up with other subsidies.
Thank you very much. Jody, how are things here in Seattle? In the
Oh, well, I think Seattle is, in my opinion, everything is thriving. We have a great independent music scene, and I think the challenges we're seeing really is economical. As you're talking about all-age spaces, I would love to be able to do all-age shows in my venue, but it's not set up for a place to do all-ages shows, really. Because I would have to divide the bar from the showroom, and that would probably put all my 21 plus in party jail. And typically, I wouldn't be able to. I'm constantly trying to recreate the wheel in my head, trying to figure out a way to get an income stream that is not just from booze sales, because they're down. And I think that's probably going to even get worse here in the next year, if I'm completely honest. I think we just passed some tax here that's going to make it. I haven't done my research on it, so I shouldn't speak out about it too much. But I think that we struggle with these bigger venues, and the AGs, the Live Nations, they have a lot more money, and I think that I feel strongly that people are out going to shows more and more, but they're more of the A-list type shows and bigger venues, and we little guys can't compete with that at all. So that's the challenges I face, and I mean, everything, the cost of goods has gone up tremendously, and I'm still trying to figure out and wrap my head around how I'm going to make things work. And I don't mean to be blatant.
Yeah, have you seen the rise of special events, festivals, and things like that? Which there's definitely post-COVID I think the city of Seattle issued more special events permits than any other time in its history. Have you seen that affect your venue?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's important to reactivate these spaces, and I think that's what the goal of the city is when they are doing that. But essentially, if we have free shows all over town in the summertime, that takes people out of our venues, and summer's already traditionally a time where we all struggle. I'm glad that we have a city that cares about music, that being said, but I do find it hard, because I had a situation recently where I had an artist booked, an international artist, and found out 2 days later that he was booked a free show in downtown. And my show was on a Sunday, and I couldn't even find my show listed anywhere. So it can be challenging.
Yeah.
Disheartening.
I will say from the artist rep side that we certainly try to not do that. The people I work with, we work hard on the independent side to make sure that every artist is, their career is thought about, and we're trying to build for long-term success. And I think one of the topics that's kind of come up here over the past couple of days is just the idea of scarcity, and how if you're an artist, everyone knows in this room how unbelievably hard it is to succeed as an artist. It is one of the hardest gigs you could possibly do. And so, when you're artist rep and say, look, we have a plan for you. We think this would be a really good, 4 to 5 year plan. We start in these rooms, we work our way up. Maybe we do 2 nights in this smaller room, and then we work to a bigger room, and we go that. It can be really challenging to kind of work your way through that plan where you sell out really quickly, and then all of a sudden you're like, why would we stick with this old plan? Let's go bigger as soon as we can. Let's get as much money as we can. And it's hard for us to argue back with that. The reality is we don't know how long your career is going to last. We don't know how long you're going to be able to sell tickets. We don't know how long any of this stuff is going to stay. So you might have this long-term vision, but that might compete very quickly with the reality and the economics. And so, you're battling these two sides of long-term sustainability and trying to make sure that they have a 10, 15, 20-year career versus striking when the iron's hot. And that can be a real challenge. And I think you want to build people up through the system. I think I also say the same thing. You do need places where you can suck. You need places for you to play your first shows. You need places where you can, sell your first 50 tickets. I remember booking a band and we sold 60 tickets and everyone was absolutely ecstatic. And it was amazing and we all felt great. And it's like you need those kind of wins early on, especially when you're trying to build someone's career, for them to know that's like, okay, this is possible. Like, we're not from this town and we just sold 60 tickets here. That feels incredible. But yeah, when you have larger and larger shows coming in, larger and larger entities coming in, and people start going to all these, they spend their money in, different places besides the smaller rooms, you're right, people shoot themselves in the foot. You kind of look back and you're like, well, where did all the great small venues go? And you're like, well, they're all gone now because we decided we wanted to build quicker and faster and we didn't want to go up through the chain like we normally do. And it's a constant struggle and it's a constant battle, and obviously we're trying to make sure the artist has the best intent, but we can only do so much.
I've also found that when someone convinces the band that the iron is hot right now, they tend to plateau where they are right then. And the people convincing them that the iron is hot represent the venue sizes and the things that are at the level where the band is. They're not thinking about the band beyond that. I don't know if I'm just preaching because I'm like, I see some artists in the audience and I'm like, hey, it is about that long-term growth and swinging the hammer less, in my opinion, but swing a bigger hammer. And so.
I mean, just to speak on that real quick, I think you're 100% right. And I think in the work that we do in our world of independent agents and talent reps, I think people are very focused on that artist long-term career. But there are people that are going to say, look, I got this $10,000 offer versus this $5,000 offer. Let's take the $10,000 because, we'll make more commission. And that happens sometimes. Like, it's a business at the end of the day. So those elements, they come in.
Yeah, or it's I'm going to play 5 gigs for $1,000 instead of waiting to play 1 gig for 5.
Exactly.
Sorry, it's me preaching. I'll try to solve this one.
Thank you. Where do I start? I think Colorado's got some really good things going on and has for a long time now, and I'm so glad we have so much representation here, as we like to do. But I'm like, let's start them young, right? So I think that's another access point when we talk about the pipeline. My colleague, Isaac Slade, who is here, he and I work diligently on trying to get that youth access right away. Like, and we want them to see a piece of instrument or a song or something relevant to them where they can start going, what is that? And whether or not they become musicians or get involved in the economy some other way, please stay in our town. Please build a business. Please think about how we need a publishing company in Denver. And there's gaps, and there's places like UC Denver that have like a Music Cities class, and so does our friend Michael Seaman up at CSU, teaching college students about music cities, thinking about what Youth on Record does, building that pipeline by not only having a space to teach kids how to use recording equipment and perform and then do block parties, but bought a festival so that they could help build that pipeline. And I think that's the integration we really need to just like get in the weeds more with. That helps us. And then with venues, owning a venue is nearly impossible, and it's month to month right now. And this is, we have a 450 cap room. We now have a coffee shop, and we now do matinees, and we now do all kinds of other extracurricular work. We have to rethink about how venues utilize their space during the daytime, and I would say most of you all would probably rather go to a daytime show, and you'd pay for it. But that's, family friendly, that kind of thing. And then the last note on DIY scene and spaces, when we did a music strategy for Denver in 2018, that was one of the top things that came up, was the lack of smaller spaces and DIY spaces and black box and 100 cap and that kind of thing. So we still have a gap there, but people are figuring out how to do it in their own ways.
Yeah, we were talking about, we mentioned a little bit, I was like, yeah, it's very rare that like a government or, no offense, but like is gonna create a music movement. They can support music movements, but it's always a bunch of young kids and inspiring artists that create something that typically isn't supported. And then someone else kind of buys into it. They turn Brooklyn into what it is, and then they, everything's different. Do you feel like, this is a very general question, but we have like young kids putting on shows underneath the First Avenue Bridge with a generator and a really cheap PA. I don't go because I don't want to be the old guy, but I love looking at the pictures and being inspired by it. Is there ways that do you feel like there's enough access for DIY kids that are doing something to find their own community? Maybe just someone showing them, hey, there's a door you could walk through. There's maybe telling our government and people that have access to funds a process to like open up the doors for these young folks. Because I keep seeing a lot of the money that's going into like spur on economy feels like it's going to people that are very established and been around for a long time. And I know a lot of that has to do with just they have a business license and yada, yada, yada. But is that something that you're seeing is kind of lacking in your music scenes when you talk about, young people and needing access to not just performing, but production and everything? Also shout out Vera Project U-Roll.
I came from Brooklyn. I think one of the greatest ironies was when the Vice building took down 285 Kent and Glasslands and all of the DIY spots that were right next to each other, and completely destroyed like what was a very vibrant spot of the city. And yes, I think one of the biggest problems we're facing is just NIMBYism in some way. Like, we need people to say, these places are very important. I don't care that the developers are coming in and saying we're going to build this 1,800, square foot, whatever. We need spaces for people to perform. There are so few places left now for you to play your first show, and that's the scariest thing. It's great that we still have these venues that are 150 and 250 capacity, but if you don't have that 50-person room in your market, or if you don't have that bar that has music 6 nights a week sometimes, like, that's where people start out. That's where you learn to get good. That's where you learn you want to do this. And if that leaves us, then we're all not going to be here in 10 years. Like, there will be no music policy because there's not going to be enough music.
Yeah. Related to that and to your question, I was that DIY kid, right? And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and showed up a lot and said yes and was the one setting up the PAs and do all that, and bumped into someone who had capital who was crazy enough to invest in an idea that didn't have a return on investment wasn't calculated based on how much money they were going to make in the end. It was based on like, I want to make cool shit happen in this town. And that doesn't happen enough, right? Like, I just think that people that have access to capital, I'm really, as much as this conversation can tend to lean toward government, like public money, I think there's so much private money on the sidelines that is so obsessed with 10x or plussing their money instead of 5xing their money and making a positive impact on their community. And I just don't know how to get, when there's some rock and roll kid who's obviously working harder than most folks, invest in that kid if they have an idea. But we need help on how to make those relationships, because a lot of, I'd been managing a band for long enough, my own band, and booking tours. I had enough of a pseudo business sense to be trustable with capital, I guess. But those are some of the bridges I'm curious about how we're building, and that's one area we've been lucky but also successful in Boise with. Yeah.
It'd be wonderful to see our major promoters invest in some of that.
Whoa, that's a novel idea.
Take care of the thing that brought the artist to your stage? No way.
Oh, they want to invest. Believe me, they just want to take it with them. They want to own it themselves is the problem. And that is the problem. So I would just say, because like we're doing great work in Boise, but things are hard. Like things are tight. Like things are tight in the independent space. And I've been saying this to banks and to other folks. Like, yeah, if I was going to the capital markets and being like, in 5 years, I'm going to sell to Live Nation and you're going to make this much money. That is a compelling pitch to capital. But for some crazy reason, and I get it from a mathematics standpoint, it's not a compelling pitch to be like, this is a long-term local business that it can stay independent, it will last in this town, and it will make all this impact. And so, unfortunately, that's what's happening. Like that's the pitch. That's our capital markets in general, though. I just want to say. But in music, that's what's happening.
It's very American for like an independent to, because what happens, you create a proof of concept. And the huge corporation says, well, they did all my research for me. They extended all the sweat equity to prove something like this works. They try to copy it. It usually sucks. And they walk out. I know that, like, I've had that happen to me directly a couple times.
Do you have a story to tell?
I have a few stories. Let me just say. But, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room have that story. But, and a lot of people come from that DIY, like, we're all kind of here. You don't really choose to work in music because you're like, wow, this is what's gonna make me the most money. You love a community and you love working in the arts, you love doing what you do, and you're willing to put up with a lot of scary bills and months. But, the DIY spaces, I think the sentiment, what I love is like, if only these things which are reporting record profits, they own the ticketing company, they own everything, whatever, so of course they're gonna, but how do they give back to the thing that's feeding it? Maybe sometimes they're producing that thing, maybe, and they're not looking down that pipeline, I don't know.
Well, there's something that we talked about yesterday, which I love now, and it's the thought about extraction and how part of it is just the business. Like you want to make as much money as, like what I was saying before, you want to make as much money as you can, as quickly as you can, because you don't know how long this is going to last. But that model is not sustainable, and I might get fired for saying this. I know this is being recorded. But agents can't go to people and say, I want 95% of the door, and I don't want there to be ticket fees, and I want 100% merch, and expect venues to still be around. Like, we can't do that forever. And so Eric came up with this great term of reasonable nuance, which I think is fantastic. And there's a lot of wiggle room in these ideas and deals that we can make that can be mutually beneficial, and neither party has to be the one that's putting up 100% of the risk. And I think we need to kind of work towards that mindset more and think about how we can take that into the future of just, all right, we're all in this together as we were in the pandemic, and just go back to that mindset of, okay, let's figure out how we can make this work.
Can you repeat, what was that? Mutual?
No, reasonable nuance.
I'm fascinated.
It's a policy plan.
It sounds very not concrete. I like it. No, but I mean like malleable, I guess, is what I'm saying. Not saying it's anyway.
Creative
Policy. And getting back to festivals and these large things, I mean, there's also an element of who's booking the room, and I think here in the ecosystem, I know Jody and I have talked a lot, when a lot of opportunities are just seen to go to just a handful of places, less opportunities go to more bands and more artists, where, for lack of a better way of saying it, like, a lot of money's done for a lot of different events, and the same 12 bands get booked for those events when there's a lot more talent out there to book and a lot more to build on. I have no idea how to address it other than like tiptoeing around and looking at other people's lineups and making sure I don't step on their toes. But I don't know, this is kind of I see this as a balance between, like Jody, you experienced, like you had a band booked,
you negotiated a deal, and then suddenly they're playing a free show a couple days before that is, I think, funded by a grant. So what can be done to just improve that so that the venues, you know, the sensitivity around who you're booking, but why are you booking them? Right stage, right place, right time. Why are you doing it? Can that nuance be made into policy? Can that nuance be considered, or I don't know, like, what do you do? Because it is a common theme.
That comes down to ethics, right?
Yeah.
I think from my standpoint, I just wish there was a better line of communication between the bookers of festivals and some of these other events with us venues. We all want to see these bands rise and succeed, but for me, more so now than ever, I'm having to turn people away because my cost to open the room is so much greater than the potential of what I'm going to make with those bands. And that there again, that goes back to what you were saying about small spaces and bands needing to suck. I don't know where they're going to suck at if we can't afford to open our doors. And when these other entities are taking those, you know, doing something like that, I don't know how you make that an ethical thing that happens, because we talk about these things as club owners and venue bookers, and I don't think the earnest is really on a band, because the band is going to go wherever the money is, and a band needs exposure as well, and they're going to get a lot more exposure playing in the Bark downtown than they are in my 100 cap room. So I'm not sure how we do that. I thought we were going to do that. We spoke about doing that, during closure. We were all going to come together and fight for each other, and that just really isn't happening. It's a bummer. I don't want to be the bleak bummer.
I think part of it, and is kind of what Nathaniel was talking about in your context. I think it's important for artists, and very into this, venues and artists get pitted against each other all the time for some foolish reason. I mean, it really is it should be a symbiotic nature between the two. And like, if an artist could suck and still have a lot of friends and bring them to the space, right? It's like that's the thing, is artists understand their role in the ecosystem, right? And their role in a venue, it's an exchange of value, right? And bringing people to the club is what matters, and that's how the economics work, right? And that doesn't mean you're not supporting them, but it is important for them to understand that it doesn't mean you don't like their band. It means that you have a business to run too, and so, that has to be part of it, and that's part of how we coach artists. We need to imagine, Kevin. I'm curious how you talk to artists around that, right?
Yeah, I definitely. Well, when I talk to artists, I start with what are your goals, and there are no wrong answers. Yeah. But it's really differentiating the difference between someone who is expecting an hourly pay, who plays in a pit or an orchestra, who belongs in a union, which is awesome, and someone who puts their name on a poster and becomes a billed musician. No one goes to Safeco to sell it out because they just advertise there's live music. They go because Beyonce's playing. The same thing applies to a 50-person venue. So the second you put your name on a poster, it's your name that is attracting the people. You are running a business. Yep. And your business for that night is in a partnership with the venue. Yep. And so I do get that, especially here in Seattle. A lot of forces like to drive division between the venues and the artists. And a lot of venues and people like Jody, Lee Bezezikov, who still worked at the Tractor but is there, and Brady and Crocodile. And there are people here that work at venues that would love to have an open dialogue and show them, and I've worked at some of these venues, and if you looked at their books, you're like, yeah, some of these artists are making more than the people at the venue. And it's not this mythical thing with people's, daddy warbucks on piles of money. They're kind of doing it for their passion. But I think opening up a little bit of the mythology and erasing that from what the realities are of running a venue like the Clock Out would be really helpful, because it would improve the partnerships that artists have with the venues. But it also might make artists advocate for venues and venues advocate for artists, and that symbiotic relationship could be strengthened. So that is what I try to talk about and what I try to be very clear. Like when I have an artist that is like, I honestly only had 20 people paid at my last show. I am stoked because I know they're not bullshitting me, and I know there's something there to work with. And I love that thing when you have that artist with the 50-person came out for the first time. That's the best feeling, because that's the start of something that could be incredibly magical and something that could be incredibly life-affirming. That, to me, is like a special thing. I mean, people look at Madison Square Garden, whatever, it's like, yeah, but these little wins that got you there really matter, and it takes a lot of attention to care about it, so.
I think that's an important thing. If you're an artist that wants to do this, I think that's a great thing to say. If you're not going to get excited about selling 50 tickets, then you should do something else right now. Because the reality is, if you want to be a touring artist, like, that is going to be your first win, and you do have to get excited about that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of this is also built on expectations, and it's, you know, what are we telling you? Are we going to be honest about how many tickets they sold in the market last time? We should probably be more honest sometime. I mean, when you're talking to agents, you can always just, minus 10% of what they say. But I think there's a real element of, there should be more open communication. We should be like, all right, this is the reality of where we are. But also on our side, we can say, look, I'm asking for this much money because even at $500, they're going to lose probably $600 being on the road. And people need to be more transparent about the cost to run a venue and the cost of how much it costs to be on the road. And I don't think either side really is fully transparent about that. And we need to talk about that more.
Yep. 100%.
And then work together to sell more tickets, right?
Absolutely.
Like the better your relationship with the talent buyer, with the venue, whatever, like even a failed show, you're gonna come out of it being like, what didn't work? That is like such a great learning lesson.
Unless the artist forgot to promote the show.
Very true.
Or the venue didn't promote the artist.
Totally.
Exactly.
Both.
Exactly.
It's a symbiotic, but I love ticket
Yes,
counts.
Ann.
I love like bands get ticket counts every day. Yeah. Someday something surges, everyone's able to go back and be, why did that happen? Oh, because this works or that works, or who knows? We had one friend who like brings 20 people along with him. You don't know, but like that communication is always there, and I think available with the right venues. And when you find those right venues and work with them, and those venues are willing to just pay that extra attention to artists, you can have that pipeline work a little bit better. That wasn't I'm being a poor moderator, I'm just stating stuff.
I think it's incredibly difficult to be an artist these days. Not only do you have to create art, your music, you have to be a content creator. So that's challenging. And I agree with let's see. I find it really difficult for all these bands that are trying to cut their teeth in a new market, because it's ticket sales. So if you tell me that you can give me 20 tickets, it's hard for me to be able to put you on a bill unless I have something that's already got a really solid draw. And that's what concerns me, is how we're going to continue to cultivate the up-and-coming artists. It's our jobs as talent buyers, right? Yeah. And I don't know how we're going to do it. That we're working on razor-thin margins, and I think it's the same for artists. They're getting in a car, and the gas is $5 a gallon, and I don't know how anybody's doing it. I often see these headlining shows where the direct touring support made $200. I don't know how you get in a van and travel and play shows.
You definitely sleep in it.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that to get back to festivals and actually, I want to get to another point. Jody, I will shout this out. I've seen Jody take money out of her own pocket to pay for an opening band on a national tour, because she's so committed to making sure that there's locals playing before the big headliners. And so, shout out to Jody. It's another struggle. It's another way that you have these local bands that do really well. They drew 50 people, but they were amazing, and I just want to put that in front of the right audience, and we're going to double that in one day. But so often, I don't know if you can help with this, but venues are really stuck a lot of the times when the artists are complaining, why don't the local bands, why can't they make their way and support these big shows? And I think Jody, kind of mentioned a lot of the time it's the agent that these are other unresponsive or resistant to that local band. What can we do?
I will say we get a lot of emails, but I don't think there really is, it's really hard. I think we were talking about this in one of the panels the other day. We do need to almost set up kind of like a locals only list of some sort. Every major market, there should just be a list of locals that are already pre-approved, or they might even have representation, but they're still growing in the scene. And just so if you're a national tour coming through, you're like, all right, what are we going to do on the show? Oh, here's this list that we can go to. Here's a bunch of groups that we already know supports. Let's pick one of these, and then we'll go on to the next thing. We need to rethink how we're doing things for sure. I think insanity is when you keep on doing the same thing and wondering why it's not working. And that's what we've been doing for a while, and we do need to readjust and rethink how we're approaching these things.
I will also say that's why independent promoters are valuable, because they happen to know the local scene and know how to source good local bands. And so I know that's something that we care about too, right? But I do think you deal with these larger tours and promoters that are booking these shows from afar and don't maybe know the local. We often get asked to help with one of our competitors' shows with local bands because they don't really know the local scene. So.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's also there is also value in music discovery. The hard work KXP is a testament to that. There is value in a want for people to go and experience something for the first time and develop a trust in discovering new music. My festival kind of depends on that. But at the same time, maybe what you talked about earlier, I don't know if it was you, Lisa, but just being very clear about ticket sales in some of these venues that have, a smaller space and kind of own a pipeline within their space here. It's you got Madame Lou's and Barboza feeding Numos or whatever, but maybe your list is being open about what's happening in the smaller rooms. These are the sales. This is kind of value that this band could bring to your bigger show.
Well, I think we're also challenged with artist booking agents telling us, no, this is going to be a 2-band bill. And that's where I fight back and be like, no, we're going to have a 3-band bill because it's my job to keep elevating local talent. And then that's why I'm paying out of my pocket many, many times. So I think that, again, the more of us standing together and fighting back with agents about that, maybe we'll come with some results there.
Can I just take that and pull it right into let's talk about how we come together in unity and talk about what we do at a national scale. So NEVA right now is, they launched the State of Live survey, economic impact study, first of its kind across the nation. We had all 50 states, but many, many cities respond to the survey. It was not short. It was 30 questions, and for those of you that may have known it or seen it, it was for independent venues, promoters, festivals, etc., presenters. They will come out with the data in June at their conference, but each state is going to get their own copy of their state information. Nationally, we've never been equipped with this kind of information before to be really powerful to the government and whether it's federal, state, local initiatives, city council people, whoever you want, ways to now advocate better with better data about how powerful we are, but how impacted we are, and the struggles financially we will see in the outcomes too, to say you have to come help now.
Thank you. Is that survey still available, or is it?
It closed.
It closed.
But we got some good data. So it's going to represent about 16,000 venues and promoters across the nation.
We have about a minute left. Any closing thoughts from anyone on this? I know we're.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Lisa, do you think that data might help in any way working with something that we haven't really been talking about here, which is the control of some of the huge, the AEGs of Live Nation that really create radius cause issues that
sounds like you'd be a really good force in that work, and therefore I'm going to go, yep. I mean, anything's possible, and every city is different, right? So I think the fight is how you want to make it, and certainly could start talking to that.
I just want to say it wasn't until a couple months ago that Stephen Parker from NEVA broached the idea of radius clauses with me, and I'm like, we don't like them either. And it seemed like they thought that we were in favor of them or something, but no, I mean, radius clauses aren't fun for anyone, and when they say you can't pay 350 miles around this, I'm like, what are we gonna do? That's 6 states. Like, it's insane. And so that's also what drives up the cost of artists sometimes. It's like, okay, if we can't play 6 states, then you need to pay us this much money. And that's just kind of the forces at play. So, yeah, I would.
Yeah, and that could be an entirely new talk. Trust me, plenty. But our time is up. But thank you all so much. Thank you.
I think Kevin passed the audition. He can moderate again, right? Yes. So here's how we're going to be rounding the bend. We're going to come home strong. We are going to have a quick presentation, and then after that, we have an unbelievable artist conversation. Then we are doing a session called Let's See Action, which is going to be a bunch of short presentations about very specific things that people are doing in the community that sort of revolve around or connect to everything we've been doing the last couple of days. So it's going to get quick, and then our minds are going to be blown by a final performance and a poem from our board member, Hakeem. All right? So I know it's been a long day. Hang in. We're getting good. All right. Our board member, Dina Morris, when we decided to take this conference to Seattle, said that we need to be highlighting and showcasing the amazing music nonprofits that exist in this community that work on music. And so we're going to have our third quick presentation, our Seattle showcase. Ben London and Kay, come on out and talk about Sonic Guild.